Welcome into the CHGO White Sox Podcast. On today's episode, it is day one of the winter meetings down in Dallas. Our Vinnie Duber is in Texas, so we will talk to him about what Chris Getz had to say at the winter meetings. Welcome into the CHGO White Sox Podcast, coming to you live from Studio B of our CHGO offices here in the West Loop of Chicago. I'm your host, Sean Anderson, alongside me, Herb Lawrence, hello, our CHGO White Sox community leader, and in Dallas, our pal, Vinnie Duber, our CHGO White Sox beat writer. You could read all of his work up at allchgo.com. He has a brand new article up about Dick Allen's election into the Hall of Fame, along with what Juan Soto's massive contract has to do with Garrett Crochet's trade market. Make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button. Make sure you're subscribing to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. We just had a Bulls show previously today. There was a Bears show, mulling the loss to the San Francisco 49ers. We currently have a watch party for the Blackhawks-Rangers game going on in Studio A. And, of course, Cubs and White Sox talk covering the winter meetings this week. Vinny will be there Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So we have a ton of coverage coming to you. Later in the show, we will have Chris Getz's full media session where he talks about Colson Montgomery, right field, Garrett Crochet trade rumors, and Luis Robert trade rumors. So make sure that you stay tuned for that. Let's get to, at least chronologically, what happened first. Dick Allen's a Hall of Famer. Dick Allen and Dave Parker have been elected to the National Baseball Hall of Fame by the Classical Baseball Era Committee. He needed 12 votes to get in. He got 13 of 16 votes from the committee. So Dick Allen is a Hall of Famer. Before we get into what cap is he going to wear, this is such a shame it's been so long. Vinny, you got the cool chance to hang out with Dick Allen's family, and you got to see the reaction. That's up on your Twitter account. We do have a short that I think is posted on our YouTube channel right now, but you got the chance to watch Dick Allen's family's reaction.
Yeah, it was a really cool moment. I mean, obviously, something they've been waiting for a very long time. I think he was first on the writers' ballot way back in the 1980s, and obviously he's been on the Veterans Committee ballot multiple times. I think it's been 7. Is that right? I think most recently a couple years back. Several years then before Dick Allen passed. Also, he passed in 2020. So obviously, as we've been talking about for a while now, when the ballot was announced, such a shame that they couldn't have figured out a way to do this while he was still alive. But to see some family members, including his son, who have been waiting for this for a really, really long time, really cool to see that not only relief that it finally happened, but the celebration, the joy over it finally happening as well. And it comes through the video, but certainly in the room, it was even more special to witness. And what a cool thing for Dick Allen's family members and his friends as well to finally be able to call him a Hall of Famer.
14 BBWAA elections that Dick Allen had to go through, and 7 veteran committees, 21 entire ballots.
And, I think there were people and forces working against him actively about his candidacy, saying that he was a bad teammate. That's one of the reasons why he was not eligible for the Hall of Fame, most namely Bill James. But as Vinny said, it sucks that he is no longer with us, but it's good that his family gets to celebrate, just as Minnie Minoso's family got to celebrate his inclusion into the Hall of Fame. So better late than never, but if you look at his numbers, you look at what he had to go through strife-wise. I mean, Michael Jack Schmidt talked about all the stuff that he had to deal with from his home fans in Philadelphia as a Rookie of the Year, as a great player, all the racist nonsense he had to deal with, and then just having to be that guy was thought of as an angry, bad teammate. and then have to fight through that. And you see the numbers. The numbers are undeniable. He's one of the best third/first basemen in the game, and the numbers speak to that. To go through 14 ballots of the BBWAA and then to miss the Veterans Committee, by one vote twice while he was still here. It's just heartbreaking. I'm finally glad that he got a chance to go in there, and hopefully he's looking along in the afterlife and saying, yes, finally getting my just desserts and my just due, and his family gets to go to Cooperstown for that beautiful day, I think in July of next year.
Absolutely, and I think there was some comment that I saw because I posted on Reddit the news because I was just waiting for 6:30 to see if I needed to post a graphic on our social accounts or not. And someone was like, "Oh, growing up, you always wondered if you wanted more to do with this contract or something else." And it's like, man, you look at the Juan Soto contract and like Dick Allen made peanuts compared to Juan Soto. It's like this guy's the big superstar complaining about money. Of course he is. He's probably making like at this point like $47K in 2024 money.
Yeah, and I was doing research when Bill Melton had passed away last week. Many White Sox observers believe that both Bill Melton's and Dick Allen's great seasons early in the 70s saved the White Sox from moving to Milwaukee, saved them from relocating because of the exciting baseball that they're bringing to the South Side. So we owe a debt of gratitude to these gentlemen for keeping us here.
Yeah, absolutely. Dick Allen, too. You talk about Bill Melton. In 70, he breaks the White Sox home run record with 33. 71 follows that up, and Dick Allen's like, nice record, Bill. I'm going to beat it by 4.
Give me that.
And then wins the MVP. And I think the biggest thing that came out, and I saw David Fletcher, the author of Chili Dog MVP, or one of the authors, along with John Owens, the book that details the 1972 season for Dick Allen, where he wins MVP. He was with the family. He talked to Chuck Garfien, and he mentioned that, Dick Allen, because of all the strife that he went through in Pennsylvania and Philadelphia, it seems like it's possible Dick Allen goes into the Hall of Fame wearing a White Sox hat. Vinny, any thoughts on that? Or maybe is this a player that, with his career being stretched out over, several different places, this is somebody that goes in hatless?
Yeah, we'll see how it turns out. That it's so weird that the players usually don't get to pick, right? And I guess maybe the idea there is to avoid some of the I don't even want to use the word political because it's justifiable in certain cases that there wouldn't be fond memories of a location or an organization that a player played for, even if that's where they had their most successful years. But Dick Allen was a 3-time All-Star in all 3 seasons with the White Sox, won that MVP. I think you could certainly justify that he would be remembered maybe not better, but certainly equally as a member of the White Sox than as he was with the Philadelphia Phillies. I believe recently we heard, was it Andre Dawson hoped for his cap to be a Cub cap, or switched to a Cub cap rather than the Expos, which they put on there. So maybe letting the players have a little bit of say, or in this case, in Dick Allen's case, the players' friends and family, wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, right? I mean, you're immortalizing them. Maybe you want to go ahead and celebrate their legacy by doing a little right by them. But last night we saw the Phillies jersey hanging up in the room. Obviously, his number was recently retired there, I believe, while he was still alive in Philadelphia. And his grandson, who was present, was also wearing a Phillies hat. It was a Dick Allen hat, first and foremost, but it was red with that white Phillies P on it. So it'd be interesting. Maybe hatless is the way to go there, but if you've got express wishes of somebody to wear a certain cap on their plaque, maybe it's time, if you don't necessarily make it a rule that everybody gets to pick, at least give some consideration.
Anything else on Dick Allen?
No, I just think it was great that he's there and that we get to celebrate him at least one more time. And I would love for him to be a White Sox, but I think most people, if you look at all the highlights that you've seen the last couple of days, they're mostly White Sox highlights, as you guys stated. 3-time MVP, 3-time All-Star with the White Sox. That MVP, the first in White Sox history. I think that he is just. I remember him as a White Sox, even though I never seen him play. But I know his season, his career started with the Phillies and went on to other teams after that.
And I find it funny, too. Dick Allen gets 13 to 16 votes from the committee, and Dave Parker gets 14 of 16. And you can make the argument, especially with the 20-WAR difference, that Dick Allen is a much better player than Dave Parker. But hey, still, politics. And I think even Dave Parker's current situation probably leads people to being like, oh well, we didn't do it with Dick, so let's make sure we get it in with Dave. So congrats to both of them. Regardless, they're Hall of Famers, and I only want to besmirch Jack Morris, so congrats to Dave Parker and Dick Allen. All right, that's going to do it for our
You
talk.
love that.
It's a good bet.
There's nothing more that you love than besmirching Jack Morris.
Hey, Mark Burley should be a Hall of Famer. Jack Moore shouldn't. All right, Vinny is down in Dallas for a reason. It is the winter meetings. He got the chance to speak with Chris Getz. We'll play that in the later half of the show. It's about 22 minutes long, so we'll have a full 30 minutes in the C block to talk about or to show that to you. Right now, we're going to talk about it specifically. I think the biggest thing that people are worried about, and it was one of the first questions asked to Chris Getz, is Garrett Crochet. Did you get a sense of let's say, urgency with Chris Getz? Do you feel like it's looming with Chris Getz by anything that he said? Or, again, is it just going to be like the Dylan Cease playbook, and this will be until they get the best offer?
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. I didn't get a sense of urgency at all. And in fact, Chris's words downplayed any urgency, basically saying not just, hey, maybe it'll happen this week, maybe it won't, but saying maybe it'll happen this offseason, maybe it won't. You know, he kind of reiterated what he said at the GM meetings a month ago, saying, hey, wouldn't be the worst thing if he's our opening day starter, you know, kind of thing. So I don't know how likely that is to happen. It would seem that Chris's transparency, you know, on the fact that they're basically, I don't know if shopping is the right word, but very willing to trade one of their best players would indicate maybe that it's probably going to happen before the season begins. But I think the Dylan Cease playbook is exactly what they're going to go with. In fact, Chris Getz even went as far to say that learning from the Dylan Cease trade, learning from the Eric Fetty trade, and just being on the job for now a little bit longer than he has been, they have a little bit more understanding of how other teams operate. And maybe they can wait even longer. Maybe they can let teams operate the way that they operate and use it to their advantage to kind of just sit around and wait for an even better deal to come along. He repeatedly said, you wait for the market to come to you. You wait for it to come to you. And it's hard to say that he's wrong there. I mean, they've got the player. They have the you know, Herb, like you always say, the price is the price. Go ahead and whenever you're ready to come along and pay that price, our phones work. And I think that's exactly the tack that they're going to take this time, just like they did with Dylan Cease last offseason. Not sure it'll get all the way to March. It just seems things are moving along at a little bit better clip now. Obviously, Juan Soto last night, Chris said that had generated a little bit more buzz and a few more rings on his phone than had been the case the day before. But I don't think the White Sox are in any rush to trade Dylan Cease this week. It might happen, but I don't know if I'd even go as far to say that it's likely to happen before I come home from Texas.
Oh, you're good. Well, I mean, I just want to correct. You said Dylan Cease. They traded him last year.
Yeah, maybe they'll try to trade him again. See if there's any takers.
Get some more players for Dylan Cease.
If you can make it work, make it work. You know, yeah.
And also, I know this is unfair for me to ask you before even asking, but we were down there in Nashville at the winter meetings, and I felt that Chris Getz was as such, like a rookie general manager at his first winter meetings as the general manager. How does his composure look this year? Does he look a little bit more the part?
I mean, I think he's operating similar to the way he has this whole time that he's been since he's been promoted to GM. I think the thing that we get from him that you didn't get from Rick Hahn as much, not that Rick Hahn was, you know, hiding anything or anything like that, but I think Chris Getz is a lot more straightforward in his responses. I think he kind of tells you what's going on. And I think, you know, just to go out there and say, we're willing to wait, or to go out there and say, yeah, it might not happen. You know, even that level of you know, truth telling, if you want to call it that, whatever, is a greater amount than it was prior. So I think that is positive from a media standpoint. Certainly, that's something that we appreciate. It makes our jobs a little bit easier. But no, I think he's going to do very much the same thing that he did with Dylan Cease last year when it comes to Garrett Crochet this year. And if that means waiting around past the end of the winter meetings, that means waiting around.
We are getting close to a break here. We are going to talk about Luis Robert Jr. Chris Getz did talk about the interest that is percolating around La Pantera at the winter meetings, and we also got more on Garrett Crochet right after a break here on the CHGO White Sox Podcast.
The weather is getting cooler, but you don't have to give up your summer mindset for your favorite summer beers. Leinenkugel Summer Shandy is now available year-round. It's the perfect companion for any time of the year. You know, when I'm at the ballpark or a stadium, I'm almost grabbing myself a summer shandy because it's delicious, lemony flavor, and the summertime vibes that it gives me. Like, I went to the Cubs Wrigley Field for the there's like a Illini Northwestern game a couple weeks ago. Got myself a summer shandy, even though it was like 30 degrees outside. I drank it, and I was like, all right, we're back in summer. I'm at a baseball game, so I can take myself there and get a little bit warmer inside. For over 150 years, Leinenkugel has combined German brewing traditions with Wisconsin innovation. You don't just have to pick one, as Sean shows you right here. Leinenkugel has a popular variety packs that come in 4 favorites to try and enjoy. Flavor every moment with Leinenkugels, the official craft beer of the Chicago White Sox. Go to Leine.com/CHGO to find delivery options that is near you. That's LEINIE.com/CHGO, or pick up Leinenkugel pretty much anywhere they sell beer. Leinenkugel's flavor the moment. Celebrate responsibly. The Jacob Leinenkugel Brewing Company, Chippewa Falls.
Yes. We also want to let you know about our friends over at ComEd. Herb.
Yeah.
Did you know ComEd can help businesses save more money by becoming more energy efficient?
I did not know that. I'm glad that you just told me that.
Hey, man, I know that the energy efficiency program can help businesses find up to 35% in energy savings.
No doubt.
No doubt.
So what does
the band?
What does
good band?
What do businesses have to do to get that?
Well, they just have to sign up for a free facility assessment at ComEd.com/biz.
So that's all they have to do. Why aren't businesses doing this?
I think they forgot the website of ComEd.com/biz. ComEd.com/biz.
ComEd.com/biz. ComEd.com/biz. ComEd.com/biz.
Terms and conditions apply. Offers are subject to change. Actual savings will vary by customers' energy usage and rate. The ComEd Energy Efficiency Program is funded in compliance with state law. Ryan saying, I think Getz is just sitting in the middle of the hotel lobby, basically telling teams, give me a reason to get up in regards of a trade. To at least expand on that, there was a quote asking if the field has narrowed on Crochet, and Getz responded, there are some teams that are more sincere than others. Then there are organizations that we match up and we align with more. We still are kind of learning, and those conversations will be ongoing. But while we are here, we are doing the best we can for the White Sox. If that means we make a move, we make a move. But it's okay if we don't. At least reading the tea leaves. I love to, get my what's it called? My cork board out, and love to attach my pieces of string, and I love to figure out the conspiracy theory. Gordon Wittenmeyer said that the Reds and White Sox talked, but it didn't come to much fruition. Mm-hmm. So it does seem like the Reds, even though there was a little bit of steam from John Morosi, it seems like they're falling off. John Morosi earlier today said that the Brewers are showing interest, which is a team I'm very interested in. We'll talk about them a little bit later. But I thought something that was very interesting from John Morosi was his reporting yesterday that the Red Sox would be willing to include Marcelo Mayer into a trade package. Mayer is a top 10 prospect. He was previously the top 2 or the second prospect in Boston's farm system. He's now down to 3 after Christian Campbell's monster year. So I do think, again, to Ryan's point, it does seem like Chris Getz is trying to just wait until this market percolates fully, and he's trying to reap the rewards of it. And I think it's huge that at least John Morosi is saying there's interest from Boston to give up a top prospect like that, because it's exactly what Chris Getz is looking for in this specific trade for Crochet.
Yeah, and I mean, take a look at Boston as a good example, right? I think the Yankees probably could fall into this category as well. It's a team that just missed out on Juan Soto. And so all of a sudden their offseason, while maybe not unexpectedly, is now has to take a different path, right? And the same can be said for the free agent pitchers who are still in the market. Don't you think that the Red Sox and Yankees would love to spend all that money that they were going to give to Juan Soto still on someone like Corbin Burns or Max Fried, and they wouldn't have to give up any prospects? Boy, wouldn't that be great? And maybe they do, or maybe they don't. And if the Red Sox or the Yankees, for example, are left standing without a free agent date to the dance, right, then all of a sudden maybe parting with the prospects is the only way that they can make the sort of impact splash that they were hoping to make this offseason. So waiting on the part of the White Sox is not necessarily the worst thing. And maybe it opens up avenues or makes avenues more realistic that today, right now, aren't necessarily there. Maybe the Yankees are saying, no, we want to keep our prospects. Well, we have money. We can just pay for help. But then a month goes by, or 2 months go by and they don't have those players that they thought they were going to have. Oh, all of a sudden, Garrett Crochet for the prospects looks like the way that we can upgrade our roster. Now, Sean, you bring up the Brewers, you bring up the Reds, and I think we can put even big market team like the Cubs in this category because they don't seem to want to spend either. Maybe the Orioles don't want to spend a massive amount of money that Corbin Burnes is going to get. Maybe it's a situation where those teams can be in on Garrett Crochet because they have the prospects that allow them to compete, even if they aren't willing to spend the money.
And just to jump in too, Bob Nightingale was on Foul Territory today. He said that he thinks that the Phillies are the leaders, which is a little bit surprising to me, but also you really can't rule out Dave Dombrowski. If Boston's willing up to give Mayer, maybe Philly's willing up to give up Aiden Miller, their top shortstop prospect. But he did say, Bob Nightingale did say, they're waiting for the Orioles. So I think that was a huge team that you threw out there. It seems like Chris Getz has been waiting, whether it is Dylan Cease or Garrett Crochet, for the Orioles to get involved just so that price can go up and that he can secure this top price. So it does seem like it's just trying to thin out that herd and make sure that herd's hungry. And now it seems like I'm abusing animals, so I'm going to stop with this metaphor. All right.
And I hear what you're saying, Vinny. It makes perfect sense that the Yankees would be fishing for the free agent market as they usually do for pitchers after they missed out on Soto. Same thing with Boston. But I would say, why would you wait for something that you got to pay a lot of money for when it only takes prospects? You're the Yankees. If you get Garrett Crochet into your mix, I'm sure Yankees fans are feeling a little sore today because they lost to their crosstown rival Mets about Soto. I told them they weren't going to win that one. Come on, man. Steinbrenners are broke in comparison to Steve Cohen. Come on now. But you can imagine having Garrett Crochet being the prize jewel of your offseason and in a Yankees way of not paying a lot of money to get him. I think it's the way to go. And Chris Getz waiting for Baltimore, I think, is also the genius move because that is the team that I've been trying to get Garrett Crochet or Dylan Cease last year too, because of all the people they have and all the people that they cannot play. Like literally, they cannot play Heston Kjerstad anywhere. They can't play Kobe Mayo anywhere. Those people are in front of them. Theoretically, they can play DH or first base, but they have people there already. Mountcastle and Ryan O'Hearn already playing there for their last years there. So I just don't understand why they haven't pulled the trigger, Baltimore, why they're so prospect huggy, especially after 2 early exits in the playoffs. I think Mike Elias can't spend that money as they have a new owner. I'm sure that new owner's like, I just paid a bunch of money for this team. I don't feel like spending buku dollars on Corbin Burnes or Max Fried. How can I do that? Get the surplus of prospects I have back here, trade one of those big-time prospects, and get a top-of-the-line starter for Baltimore Oriole prices.
Yeah, I'm unsure what's motivating Baltimore and if they are still trying to kick the tires on Burnes. I know Santander's still out there as well, so maybe that's where their money goes. But I don't really know what Soto signing with the Mets does exactly for the Crochet market. So let's flesh that out a little bit, and then we'll go to Luis Robert Jr. Obviously, Soto signs 15 years of $765 million with the Mets. Escalators can take that up to an $800 million contract. I thought if he signed with the Yankees, that would have pushed the Red Sox hand to be like, all right, well, they just got, left-handed Ted Williams, who's 26 for 15 years, and he's going to play there until he's 41. Let's get the left-handed ace to really make it a difficult time for Juan Soto. Now that he's in the NL East, I think the Phillies make sense, but with the AL East, now you have Boston. Blue Jays missed out on Soto as well. Maybe they look to bolster their pitching. Yankees, we throw in the Orioles. Do we think that there's a certain I was going to say conference, league that picks him up, whether national or AL, or is it just, too early to tell?
I think it comes down to the individual teams. I don't think that Juan Soto's presence in the National League East makes all the 4 of those other teams, for example, or the other 14 teams in the National League all of a sudden say, oh no, we need Garrett Crochet because of Juan Soto. I think you go get Garrett Crochet for what he can do every 5th day, not just on the 1 or 2 times he's going to be pitching against Soto over the course of a season or perhaps in the postseason. So no, I don't think his presence has an effect on Garrett Crochet and what might happen in a trade with the White Sox. I think his coming to a decision has an effect on Garrett Crochet and the trade that might happen with the White Sox for much of the reasons that I just talked about, right? The idea that teams who were bidding for him now have to move their focus, right? I mean, we've seen in the last two off seasons, how the entire market, more so last year with Ohtani than it was this year with Soto, because there has been activity this year a little bit more so. But think back to Ohtani last year, nothing happened until the Ohtani thing got resolved. And on a smaller scale, I think you're seeing that with Soto. It's not that nothing happened, but all of the Mets' attention was on getting Soto. All of the Yankees' attention was on getting Soto. All of the Red Sox attention was on getting Soto. Maybe you can even throw the Dodgers in there as well, because they're always game to do something. So now those teams move on to what's next, whether you're the Mets and it's item 2, or it's the other teams and you have to reprioritize and try to figure out how are you going to bolster your roster now that the one guy that you wanted the most, who could have bolstered it the most, is off the board. So I think, I don't know if that means that a Garrett Crochet trade is going to happen tonight now that Soto's out of the way, but I think it means that those teams are open to doing different kinds of business than they've been doing probably for the last several weeks.
And I know most teams were held up by the Juan Soto news, but this offseason just seems like a lot more activity, even before
absolutely.
Juan Soto stuff. I'm a conspiracy theorist by nature, and so I'm thinking last year when they had their marquee offseason event pretty much be a whole dud when we went down to the Nashville for the winter meetings, I'm sure that Rob Manfred and other people were like, hey, man, we're going to need to have some things happen during this 3-day escape where you are all in the same place and not have Jackson Churio be the main focus or Eric Fetty be the main focus of the weekend. As a conspiracy theorist myself, I think there had to be some type of memo sent down. It's like, hey, guys, let's get this offseason started more correctly and faster, because we've seen the Blake Snell signing, see the other signings before the Juan Soto stuff. It just seems like people are just more willing to deal this year and more willing to get into deals earlier in the summer, in the winter. I know the Ohtani thing was a big time thing last year, but it seemed also like even the trade market was kind of stale.
Yeah, I would just say, I mean, at least for Soto and then for Snell, represented by Boris, and I think just Boris had such an awful year last year that he had to redeem himself. So maybe not, kicking around trades or proposals longer than they should and losing out on those. It's also weird, too, because now the more we learn about Ohtani, it seemed like he wanted to be on the West Coast, seemed like he wanted to be a Dodger. I don't know what it took so long to figure out a contract with one team, but it did. So we'll see. All right. Before we get into the next break, I do want to talk about Luis Robert Jr. When talking about Garrett Crochet, Chris Getz said, then in a way, refreshingly, Robert has gotten a lot of attention as well. That speaks to the talent that is Luis Robert Jr. and what he brings to a table at his floor, just because of the defense and base running and the power. He can be above average player, let alone get you a smooth runaway at the beginning of the year, and what he's capable of doing throughout a full season. He's an impactful guy, and teams are recognizing that. Vinny, we've talked about the kind of mixed reporting around Luis Robert Jr. Bob Nightingale said, from an anonymous GM, their price is way too high. And then just recently, now it sounds like the White Sox, at least from ESPN's standpoint, the White Sox are begging teams to take Luis Robert Jr. What did you take away from at least that part where Chris Getz described the interest around Robert?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's trying to talk up his player as a potential trade candidate, certainly. Now, I don't think anything he's saying is wrong. We just saw 2 seasons ago how Luis Robert Jr.'s talent can make him one of the more impactful players in baseball. He can do so much on the field, and he can be one of those MVP-type players if the production is there, and most importantly, if the health is there, right? Now, in 2024, neither of those things were there. And so if you're talking, what have you done for me lately? Luis Robert Jr. hasn't done much for anyone lately. That being said, Chris Getz is right in describing him as a guy who's talented, and baseball doesn't forget that, right? I mean, there's no way that 29 other people watching baseball every day are like, oh yeah, 2023 didn't happen. Luis Robert Jr. is terrible. How dare you try to get me to give you a good prospect for him? Of course they know what his talent can be, and you don't think they would like to apply the systems that they're confident in, right? The offensive systems that some of these teams are so confident in having built to a player with that kind of talent to maybe fix what he's doing offensively and get him to reach closer to that ceiling of his, which I think everybody would agree is sky high. So that being said, there was a lot of questions posed to Getz about, hey, would you be selling low if you traded Luis Robert Jr. this offseason? Are you really going to be able to get what you want for him? And at the end of the day, I think the truth remains, no, he isn't going to be able to get what he wants probably for Luis Robert Jr. this offseason, even though he said you would like to accelerate your rebuilding process by getting somebody, by getting the kind of talent that you would get in a trade for someone like Luis Robert Jr. So I don't think Robert's going to be traded this offseason. I just don't think the value is going to match up. I asked Chris, hey, are you seeing a discrepancy in the valuation that you guys have for this player who you obviously believe in so much versus what other teams are thinking? And he said, yes, there is. But he also said that that's not necessarily atypical. Maybe that's just kind of how trade conversations start, right? But I don't think Robert's going to get traded, certainly this week, but this offseason even. And but Chris is obviously trying to remind everybody what kind of player Luis can be.
Yeah, and I'm sure he probably talked about the flourishing market for Andrew Benintendi as they look to trade that contract away as well. We have 75 people watching us and only 11 likes. Make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. We currently got a live watch along with the Blackhawks and Rangers going on in Studio A. We have a ton of Bears, Bulls coverage for you. Ryan and Vinny are down at the winter meetings covering the Sox and Cubs side of things. So we got a ton of coverage here on the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. We're going to take a break, and we got Chris Getz speaking. We have the full 22 minutes of Chris Getz's meeting with the media. Let's take a break here on the CHGO White Sox Podcast. We want to let you know about our friends over at Empire. With Empire today, you get shop-at-home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a low price guarantee. Empire today is the best place to get new flooring, so of course they have copycats, but Empire cannot be beaten on their quality, service, and speed. That's why competitors advertise low-quality products that Empire simply won't carry. Empire won't promise the lowest prices because anyone who does is putting flooring in your home that they wouldn't put in theirs. Empire keeps shopping for floors simple with a curated product selection. Their philosophy is to help you find what you need and not overwhelm you with thousands of choices and substitutes. And you can check out their thousands of choices with their virtual floor designer. It's a great way to see how new floors will look in any space. It's easy. Just snap a picture and instantly see how new floors will transform any of your rooms. Schedule a free home in estimate today with our friends over at Empire. All listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use promo code CHGO. Restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/CHGO for details. Again, all listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use promo code CHGO at empiretoday.com/CHGO. 588-2300 Empire Today.
Hello. With HelloFresh.
Hello.
You get farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip the drives to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. I love the holidays, but with all busy that I am, usually I'm looking for something that is less stressful, and HelloFresh helps me make mealtime manageable, saving you from searching for recipes on all that grocery shopping. They got all the stuff that you need. Just pick up your meals. Everything you need is delivered right to your door. And if you're traveling for the holidays or just too busy to cook at home, you could easily skip a week's delivery if you need to. We, my family, my fiance, myself, our dog, we're busy professionals. We love the convenience of HelloFresh because we're often too busy and tired to whip up a whole meal from scratch and want to eat something that tastes great without the guilt of that delivery and takeout usually come with. We like to order from the quick and easy menu, but there's so many others you can choose from for your household needs. Get 10 free meals at HelloFresh.com/free White Sox. Applied across 7 boxes. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. That's 10 free meals of HelloFresh. Just use HelloFresh.com/free White Sox. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit.
Thank you very much, Herb. We're back here on the CHGO White Sox Podcast. Because Vinny is down in Dallas, we should probably play Chris Getz talking. So let's go to the Chicago White Sox General Manager, Chris Getz. You've already touched on some of the quotes, but here is Chris Getz talking about Garrett Crochet's trade rumors, Luis Robert Jr.'s trade rumors, and also, interestingly enough, Colson Montgomery's ability to compete at spring training. Here's Chris Getz.
Well, we've got another winter meetings here. Excited to be here. It's enjoyable to have, a lot of our team here, and I say that whether it be coaching staff, we've got Will, Walker, and then, beyond that, we've got some front office Ryan Fuller, Brian Bannister, and some other front office members, and just having everyone together at an event like this where there's a lot of buzz. It's a little bit of a glimpse into the upcoming year, and spring training once we get through the holidays is right around the corner. So obviously we still have a lot of work to do, both organizationally and underneath in our major league club, and we're spending a lot of time together and trying to put our best foot forward.
Did you have specific goals coming into this, kind of set out that you were looking to do? I mean, obviously it's just 3-4 days out of the whole off season, but was there something you were looking at coming into this?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't come in thinking that we needed to do this, we need to do that, because so much of this is whether it be discussions with player agents, with other clubs. Everyone has their plans, and sometimes there's just a certain pace to any sort of negotiation, so to speak. So we understand what our needs are. We're going to remain big picture with every move that we make. But to have everyone together to have those discussions is something that I always enjoy, and we'll see if we can get some things done while we're here.
Will your strategy be any different on the Crochet market than it was on Cease? I mean, you guys kind of let the market play out before you traded him. Is there a different sense after going through it once that maybe a different strategy with this pitcher?
I wouldn't say there's a different strategy. I think it's you've got every offseason is different. Every deadline is different. The market will dictate so much of this, and when you're talking about off season versus in season, when you're in the off season, you've got free agency that certainly garners some attention. That may affect the trade market. When you have a deadline, the only way to access players is through making trades. So I think it brings a different bit of a pace. However, we've had a lot of conversations on a lot of different players, quite honestly. Obviously, Garrett gets a lot of attention just because of the pitcher that he's become, and that's a testament to the player, to the person, the work that he put in. He's got one of the best pitcher makeups that I've been around. I mean, this guy is at just a different level, and that showed last year, and obviously it's other teams have taken notice. And then I think, in a way, refreshingly, Robert's gotten a lot of attention as well, and that just speaks to the talent that Louis Robert brings to the table. I mean, at his floor, just because of the defense and the base running and the power, he could be an above-average player, let alone if you get a smooth runway in the beginning of the year, and what he's capable of doing throughout a full season. I mean, he's an impactful guy, and teams are recognizing that. Not to say that we're heavily motivated by any sense, but when you're in a rebuild like this, you got to look at ways to accelerate it. And if there's something out there that we feel like can move this along and take us to another level, we're going to consider it.
Were you surprised by how many teams are interested, in particular in Crochet?
I mean, it's tough to say you're surprised when you have a pitcher that went out and did what he did. I mean, there's only so many frontline guys, ace caliber type pitchers in our game. So there isn't a team in baseball that wouldn't take Garrett Crochet, and we feel very fortunate to have him wearing a White Sox uniform and comfortable going into the season with Garrett Crochet. We believe in the pitcher. I mean, he's a guy that went out last year and has proven that he's a top pitcher in our game. So to say that I'm surprised, no. Now we got to do what's best for the organization.
If you're considering trading him, has the field narrowed in the last month or so? Like, are there some teams that have separated themselves in their aggressiveness?
There are some teams that are more sincere than others, and then there are some organizations that just we match up and we align more. We're still kind of learning, and those conversations will be ongoing. But while we're here, we're going to do the best we can for the White Sox, and if that means that we make a move, we make a move. But it's okay if we don't.
So it could be a minute or it could not be. Like, there's no timetable in your mind?
There's no timetable.
We asked you a lot of about Dylan last year when he was going through this. Have you talked much to Garrett in the offseason at all? To Garrett in the offseason?
I personally, I haven't spoken to Garrett. I know our coaches have. That's because it just in our strength staff and medical, our usual kind of check-ins and making sure that they're on top of their strength and conditioning, and if they have any needs that we can help them with. So personally, I haven't. But I also know he's only a phone call away, and trust that he's preparing for next season, and I know things are going really well for him this offseason.
Robert is obviously a huge talent, but he's coming off a subpar year where there's another injury. Can you kind of dispute the notion that you would be selling low on him in this offseason because of that?
I mean, it's really how whether it be a free agent signing or a trade, it's the predictive nature of what this player is going to bring to the table in the future. The tools haven't changed. Obviously, the injury last year was disruptive to his production. But the reason there's so much interest because maybe a team feels like they can capture something that perhaps didn't show up last year. But if you go rewind to where we were a year ago, I mean, this guy, it was someone that was invaluable. He was a player that could impact the game in so many different ways. So, but we were a year later, but we believe in the player without question. And we know the player. We know what he's capable of doing, and we take that very seriously.
You're asking for a lot for him. I mean, is the price tag high on him?
I think it's an appropriate price tag based on the talent that he brings to the table.
Are you noticing a discrepancy between the evaluations of you and some of the teams you're talking about when it comes to him?
Perhaps, but that's not uncommon for every team has their every team has their evaluation system and predictors of future production. But that's something that needs to be measured in any conversation, any deal that's made. So we feel very comfortable what he's going to be able to do next year and future years. So that's certainly a big part of something large that we account for.
Has there been interest in Benintendi too? Have you heard from people who?
There's interest with a lot of these guys, and Andrew being one of them. Once again, you do what's best for the organization, and we have those conversations.
The economics of both Robert and Crochet's contracts seem to really weigh in heavily in your guys' favor, because if Robert is being deemed as the superstar he was 2 years ago, that's a pretty great contract for the team to pick up. Are you feeling that from other teams that the economic part of this is something that's a driving force as well?
I think that's why there's so much attention on these players. You look at the length of contract, their ability, and they have their models and their beliefs and evaluations, and you either align with it or you don't. But I know for one thing, as we stand here today, feel very comfortable and proud to have been part of the White Sox organization.
What do you like about the makeup of the new coaching staff and particularly the new coach?
Yeah, I love the coaching staff. They all have a diversified skill set, different backgrounds. I think that it's a combination of talent, experience levels, energy, work ethic, all the things that go into a quality coaching staff that I think is going to work its way throughout the whole organization, quite honestly. And to have a handful of those guys here is really healthy for us. And Will's been fantastic so far as our manager, and bringing that group together on the coaching staff and communicating to our players. He's made player visits already with other coaches, so I've been very impressed and really happy where we're at from a coaching standpoint.
Was it purposeful to have a younger staff because you're kind of going through a little bit of a younger rebuild, or was that just a byproduct?
Yeah, I mean, we just looked at the most talented guys. When you say you diversify, there's different levels of experience, and really it just I mean, they're to be able to connect with players is important, but it doesn't matter if you have 1 year of experience or 30 years of experience. We're looking for the best individuals that we can.
Fans might see, coming off of a season with the number of losses that you guys have, a lot of carryovers, from that coaching staff. Why is it good that you've got such a bulk of those guys coming back?
I look at a coaching staff as a battery, and they complement each other very well. We're excited about adding Ryan Fuller to the mix to help on the hitting side. We feel really good about our pitching process. We feel like we've got the right people in place on the hitting front now. I know Walker as a bench coach is really going to be helpful in a lot of different areas. He's going to help Will. I think that they're going to mesh very well. I know that it's very easy to point at a wins and loss record of last year. There's so many different factors that go into it. But we're really happy as a whole with the group that we have.
Do you feel like a lot of turnover can be unproductive at a certain point? Change for change's sake?
Well, yeah, we've got a lot of individuals that remain on the staff that were first year last year, and so you always look for ways to improve, whether it be your player group or your coaching group, and you don't want to make changes for the sake of making change. You try to support the coaches the best we can to ultimately serve our players, and we feel really good about our group.
The Cubs seem to have a really strong young core of players coming up in their organization. We, surmised, and you've talked about the fact that you're looking for good young position players. Is there anything precluding you and Jed from just having more than coffee one day and extending this thing beyond, just media conversation out there?
We've had conversations about various topics over coffee on occasion, but if there's a match, there's a match. We've got to do what's best for the White Sox, and if that means that we knock on the door of the Cubs, so be it. They have a talented group that's working its way towards the major leagues, and if we feel like it can help the White Sox, then we'll do it. But there are other organizations that have a lot of talent throughout their organization that we might match up better with.
You signed Slater, and you have a lot of left-handed corner outfielder options. Fletcher, Deloach. Do you see right field as or that mix already in house as set, or do you still see maybe adding to it or exploring different options for it?
We're looking to add to it. We are, and that's something that we may accomplish here. But we plan on going into spring training, adding to that group.
What do you think about the shortstop position? Is that something that would benefit from a veteran like you guys brought in with Paul last year?
We're looking at a lot of different options. Obviously, we've got Colson coming up. He had a very nice fall league, finished strong in Charlotte in August and September, and carried that into the AFL. And we feel pretty good about the track that he's on. Now, if there's someone out there that can, strengthen our infield positional group, we'll do it. That's why we're here, to continue those conversations.
Is Colson on a track that could make him in the mix for that for opening day?
We expect him to compete for a spot in spring training.
Does your transparency, you think, help you, knowing that you've been since you took this job, you've been so open with us and the media, and other teams and other general managers hear what you're thinking most of the time? You think that's been a helpful tool for you as you've gone about this rebuild and trying to get good players?
I hope so. That's just something that's just part of how I like to operate. I like to be upfront with everyone, whether that be with other general managers, with players or coaches. There's certain information that you can share, and perhaps you don't share all of it, but at the end of the day, I like to be very truthful and very upfront about our current state, what we're trying to accomplish, so we can kind of break through barriers and get things done for the White Sox.
Chris, you had the season you had last year with the record you had. Is it weird that in the age of the draft lottery, you're not going to get the number one pick, you're going to get the 10th pick overall? Is that kind of a weird dynamic in terms of kind of maybe a slight hamper on the rebuild too, because you could have an impact player right there, obviously?
My preference would be to be able to go inside the top 10. The rules are the rules. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. That's just the current setup of the CBA right now, and we'll try to maximize with what was given to us from the draft lottery, and continue to build towards a competitive major league club, which we feel like we're on the right track for.
How important is just all avenues, with David and the draft and trades you make or don't make, and just in building that team?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different mechanisms to bring in talent, whether it be on the international front, and we're in the process of building a new academy. We've modernized that process. We've strengthened our R&D group. Obviously, we've talked about the coaching staff, and we love the group that we have, and that'll pay dividends. I'd love for it to move quickly. I think everyone that's working in the organization, but certainly our fans, would appreciate something that they could feel at the major league level quickly. However, we got to look at the long-term health of the organization. We're going to go about it the right pace.
Chris, back to Bruce's original question about Cease, and you can answer this in a vacuum. Did you find that probably less teams involved, but they were maybe, I don't know if the word's desperate, a little more aggressive at the very end, like San Diego closed the trigger, or did you learn that maybe having everybody more involved at the beginning of the offseason may have been better? You know what I mean? That's the trade-off, right? So the idea of the trade after free agents go off the board as opposed to before, is that all swirling around in your head? I guess what you learned from the Cease trade.
Well, every market's different. Yeah. It is, and there's only certain group of free agents each off season, and that's going to affect trade acquisitions and value and pace. The one thing that I can confidently say is Garrett Crochet had a tremendous year last year, and I think everyone in baseball anticipates the arrow to continue pointing up.
You talked last offseason about the positives of acquiring multiple pieces for one player. How do you kind of balance the idea of quantity versus quality when it comes to Crochet?
I mean, there's different ways to build out value in a deal. Sometimes there's a deal that is perhaps top heavy and one or two pieces, and then there's a volume type deal. We're considering all levels. There's different ways to shape this, but yeah, we're certainly looking for impact, and we'll see if we come to something, whether it be with Garrett or anyone else.
Are position players the preference versus pitching?
At this point, yeah, we're definitely dialed in on position players, but that's not to say that we won't take a quality pitcher in return.
How much pressure is there on you and your very young but accomplished staff to get it right? I mean, you go to bed at night, is it easy to fall asleep, or does that clock keep ticking in your head?
Well, now that I'm getting a little bit older, I fall asleep fine, then I wake up, and my mind's spinning a little bit, but I think that's fairly normal. We're committed to doing things right and not being short-sighted. We're committed to building out a proper infrastructure that's going to be fruitful in the end. I mean, that's truly what it is, and you try to make sound decisions, stack them on top of each other, and if you have quality days, that you're going to be working towards something great.
In your world, was there a Juan Soto effect? Meaning, it's only been less than 24 hours, but have things ramped up a little bit since he signed?
A little bit. There does seem to be a little bit of a stir, whether that be the just winter meetings or Juan Soto. It's tough to really know, but obviously there was a lot of attention towards Juan Soto with organizations that were in that. And yeah, it does seem that my phone is buzzing a little bit more.
You've gone through this process of having the player that people want or are bidding for a few times now. What have you learned from kind of the previous experiences with Cease or Fetty that kind of informs how you're handling it now?
The market comes to you. It does. I think we showed that we were very patient last year. With Dylan Cease in trying to find the right fit for us. So I think that going through that last year is only going to benefit us this year, and understanding the behaviors and the predictive natures of other organizations allows us to be a little bit more measured this offseason.
How close are some of the rumors out there about the White Sox? And a lot of general managers laugh and say they're almost 85-90% wrong. When when they're out there. When it comes to the White Sox, how accurate have some of the reports been?
There's been some wild rumors out there. I mean, there's no denying that. I can't say that I listen and watch it that closely. I'm just focused on, what's actually happening. So at the end of the day, we really won't know until the deals are made. So, but I know when you have certain players, there's a lot of buzz. I think it's good for baseball. I know I am sensitive to player rumors just because players themselves and their families and how that can affect them. So, that comes with just being upfront and communicating the best you can.
Do you have a proximity to the majors preference in your return? Do you want guys that you can project to maybe debut in 2025, or is it not really is it just value?
We want the best players that we can, regardless of level. I think a player that's closer to the big leagues, obviously lessens the risk, perhaps. But we're looking to maximize it. You can shape it, a lot of different ways. So, proximity is a factor. I wouldn't say that, it's going to carry, 90% of a decision in the end. Upper level talent is attractive, though.
Might feel to us like maybe something is not real close right now in terms of the trade happening here, but is that a possibility yet?
It's a possibility.
Yeah.
We'll see.
You would characterize talks as you said there's activity with both Garrett and Robert, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of conversations going on, and we're certainly not going to force anything. But if it comes to us, then we're certainly not scared to pull a trigger on something that'll help us.
You surprised us last year when you signed ALLCITY at the winter meetings when we all thought you were going to trade Dylan Cease. Are the White Sox back in the starting pitching free agent market? Are you looking to add another starter?
We're looking at some pitching, to bring into the organization. We're looking for opportunities to bring in pitching.
Chris Flexen, come on down. Welcome back to the CHGO White Sox Podcast. We want to let you know that we are building the biggest and best community of Chicago sports fans, and we want you to be a part of it. Head over to allchgo.com/diehard. If you are a diehard member, you get full access to Vinnie's exclusive written articles up at allchgo.com, our entire breadth of written content up at allchgo.com. You get access to our CHGO diehard Discord, where you get to chat about any breaking news with us in the Discord, whether it be the White Sox channel, the Cubs channel, Bears, Blackhawks, Bulls, Fire, Red Stars, etc. We have a ton of you to talk about. You also get a shirt of your choice when you sign up, and discounts. You get discounts to events, and for merch, we have two sweet events taking over. Two sweet takeovers coming up. We have a Blackhawks and Hurricanes one on January 20th. We have a Bulls one taking place on January 4th for Derrick Rose night for the Bulls and Knicks.
Man, those are top shelf.
They are. Diehards get a $100 discount, so head over to allchgo.com/diehard if you are interested. We got some time left to talk about what Chris Getz had to say. And Vinnie, why don't we start with this, because I believe you asked the question about shortstops and what they're going to do. How surprising is it that Getz gives up the name of Colson Montgomery fairly easily? Wasn't even asked. And he's like, yeah, Colson might be competing. So what does that give, or what idea does that give about the White Sox offseason that Colson is going to be able to compete for a spot?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a little surprising. I don't know how surprised everybody else was, but certainly I've been under the impression that adding a shortstop of the veteran variety would probably make a lot of sense, because Colson Montgomery, the last time he played a full season of minor league baseball, didn't do so well. And obviously he finished stronger is the word, than he performed for much of the season. He had a nice Arizona Fall League, though that was just a handful of games. Obviously the White Sox are impressed enough that they are considering him, it sounds like, to be their opening day shortstop. I don't know if that's the way it's going to shake out. Maybe there'll be a lot riding on spring training. Maybe they're just happy to offer that opportunity to a player who obviously is a big part of their future. But if the offseason is dictated by the idea of, we don't need to go get a shortstop because Colson's going to be here, that's pretty impressive to me, because I'm not sure that I would have told you yesterday that Colson Montgomery was ready for the major leagues. But if the White Sox think that he's ready for that challenge, and listen, like I said, he's a very big part of their future. So he's going to be here at some point, no doubt about it. If they're looking to give him, kind of a clear path to win that job over the likes of, just Brooks Baldwin or Jake Amaya, something like that, that is impressive to me. And that is kind of surprising and really kind of points to even fewer moves perhaps being made that will add to this major league roster than we even expected.
To me, when I listen to that answer, and hopefully this is where he's going, he's just doing a carrot stick thing and just saying, hey, man, we're not going to rule out that this man might be our opening day shortstop, but I would hope that in the back of his head, and he's been forthcoming, and that was some good questioning that people asked him about, just him being a little bit more honest, like you alluded to earlier in the show, a little bit more forthright and a little bit more willing to say a little bit more than Rick, his predecessor, did. But hopefully this is just a thing where he's like, all right, I want to put this out in public so it's known that we're giving Colson a chance, but in the back of his mind, he knows that giving Colson a chance to start an opening day of next year, to me, seems a little rushed. But it's also a way to motivate that kid to be the best he can be when he hits the ground running in February when he reports to camp. And so I hope that will be the feeling that he gets and the feeling that he's using instead of he'll compete for a shortstop spot coming out of spring training. What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, I'd be surprised if he ends up being the opening day shortstop. I think it's more in the White Sox favor to hold him back and have him make his debut closer to May or June or July, so that way they just can keep him for longer. This team is not going to be competitive in 2025, so I don't understand if this is going to be a focal point of your franchise, what's the rush to get him up, especially when there is no conclusive evidence that he's ready for the major leagues yet. So it'd be surprising. Maybe he does have a great year of work, but I'm with you. I think it's more just Colson obviously was frustrated with the Arizona Fall League, with the way that he prepared and kind of attacked AAA. So I think that they're probably like, all right, well, hopefully we'll give him all the reasons to work this offseason. And if he's the best player out there, sure, maybe. But I do think that they're likely going to stay quiet at the shortstop position, but still Montgomery won't make his debut in 2025, at least on opening day. All right, Vin, I do want to get to the coaching staff. The White Sox did announce their full Major League coaching staff for the 2025 season. Walker McKinven will be the bench coach to Will Venable. Ethan Katz is the pitching coach. Marcus Timms is the hitting coach. Grady Sizemore is the offensive coordinator. Jason Bourgeois and Justin Jersley are still your base coaches. Bourgeois will coach the outfield. Jersley will coach the infield. Matt Wise is the assistant pitching coach. Joel McKeithen is a new name, assistant hitting coach, formerly with the Reds organization as their hitting coach. And Drew Butera is the catching coach. I think a lot of reaction for White Sox fans has been, why are all of these people back? It's not surprising to us, and I have my own thoughts, but what do you make of a decent amount of familiar faces returning for the coaching staff in 2025?
Yeah, I've mentioned it before, but I think that the main reason that all these guys are back is that they just got here. I think that almost everybody, with the exception of Ethan Katz and Justin Jersley, who was part of the organization for a long time, obviously at the minor league level, everybody that's returning was hired a year ago by Chris Getz after he took over as GM. And so I think you saw that remodel of then Pedro Grifol's coaching staff as another one of those behind the scenes pieces of the puzzle that allows Chris Getz to try to turn this thing in a different direction. I don't think those guys were hired to make the 2024 team as amazing as possible. Remember, it was Chris Getz saying he wouldn't have been surprised if that team lost 110 games. He hired those coaches for the longer term, for the rebuild, and it's reflective of all the same stuff that he's done at the front office level, at the scouting levels, all this stuff. This is another version of that. And I think to remove those guys just because they lost 121 games doesn't make sense. The move that was made was that they changed the manager, and then they got rid of a few coaches along with him. That was the move that was made because of what happened last year. I think this is Chris Getz hired those people last year, and his people are staying in place because that was the plan, always, to have them stay in place. You are getting some new guys in there. They're young, both McKinven and McKeithen. Good luck keeping that straight all year long. Are in their mid-30s. So, I mean, this is a young group. You do have the title change for Grady Sizemore. You have Justin Jersley getting a full year of big league coaching experience as opposed to just being a minor league manager. So there's a little bit of change in there, but I think, Sean, you said this when Will Venable was hired, and I think it's shaping up to be that way. Will Venable is not here to overhaul everything and flip over everything himself. He's another piece of the puzzle, just like all these other guys are. Chris Getz has built a staff here to point this team in the direction he wants it to go in. He had all these guys in place. Why would he get rid of them?
You think that Grady Sizemore would be up in the booth calling the plays, hit a home run, hit a double?
Yeah, I would love
triple.
I would love to see him with a headset. So if we can talk to Chris Getz over the next couple of days about getting a headset procured for Grady Sizemore, I think that'd be great.
Like, they're just making up roles for this guy.
Yeah.
Last year, major league coach. This year, offensive coordinator. If the offense sucks, does he get fired? But also, like,
no, because they have no talent.
They love them some Grady Sizemore. They cannot get enough of this man to stay on the team. And I know it's a terrible team, which Grady Sizemore and all the players love Grady Sizemore because they know of him, and he theoretically did a good job down the stretch taking over for Pedro Grifol. But I don't know.
I mean, I don't think it's too far off to even call McKinven the defensive coordinator if you really want to get like super into it. I mean, he is going to be focusing mainly on the catching and the pitching. He was lauded for his ability to refine catchers and their framing and their receiving skills. So I would say that the defensive coordinator is probably McKinven. But again, I said this as you brought up, Vinny, like 2 weeks ago. This isn't Will Venable's rebuild. This is Chris Getz's rebuild. What is Will Venable going to do to make this team interesting or better or more exciting? We've talked about how managers do not matter. What matters is the talent, and who is going to put that on the field is Chris Getz. So maybe, we see some adjustments throughout the year from manager Will Venable, but I don't think this is going to be a huge, guy who's looking to make a culture stamp. I think they're going to go out and try to just do a decent job night in and night out. And people are saying, what did Marcus Timms do to keep his job? I mean, there was a Kevin Pillar renaissance. I know you weren't watching in 2024, but I mean, there was a Kevin Pillar renaissance where he started hitting home runs more. Like, there wasn't talent to really make them better. And you could bring up Luis Robert Jr. and how he walked back as well. But I think we've seen with Robert Jr., there's a lot of volatility that goes in with that player. I don't really know if that's up on Marcus Timms's.
I know that you're saying that kind of tongue-in-cheek about Kevin Pillar, but if you're going to give him credit for him being a renaissance, give him the blame for all the rest of the people who are terrible. Yeah,
but those guys were terrible before. Like,
I
think Vince asked earlier, like, why didn't the White Sox trade Luis Robert Jr. when he was at his peak? And we talked about this last year. Like, what was Getz's idea for the 2024 White Sox? He didn't think they were going to be the worst team of all time. He talked about their projections being, 105 to 115 loss team, and they were completely worse than that. If you asked me like what their thought process was heading into opening day, I think they were thinking, we'll see how it turns out. Like, I think they were looking for a great April, and then like, oh, we'll see the star of Eloy Jimenez and Yohan Moncada and Luis Robert Jr., and we just saw more injuries galore. Like, I don't think that there was anything 2024 related that's like, oh, this is on the coaching staff. I think defensively it was pretty sloppy, and I'd love to see that get fixed. But overall, the talent is just disgusting. There is no talent on this team.
But I guarantee we'll be standing here next year doing the same show, and when the White Sox do not hit, we'll be talking about a new hitting coach. Marcus Timms failed the White Sox.
You might be. I'm not going to bother with Marcus Timms. I have no reason to talk about Marcus Timms. If I talk about Marcus Timms during the 2025 season, put tape over my mouth.
I'm just
Marcus
saying, like,
Timms
if he
does not matter.
If he doesn't
Who's
do
the
anything,
shortstop? Jacob Amaya? Can he hit a fastball?
If he doesn't do
Marcus
anything, why is
Timms
he here?
Jesus.
If he's not doing anything, why is he here?
Why is anyone here? Why does life exist?
To
all right?
do
Let's
something
question
positive.
life. Yeah, but how do you know Marcus Timms is doing a bad job? How do you know Marcus Timms is telling them bad information? How can you tell that the information's bad and it's not the bums swinging the baseball bat? It's because they're swinging 34s and they should be swinging 28 metal bats in college.
Hey, results say what they do, and also throughout
the results say the players are shit?
Journalism, we've seen that the White Sox don't prepare for games correctly.
That's correct, but that's the whole point with Chris Getz is that he's trying to change that. The analytics department was so disgustingly ran through the muck by national baseball writers that they had to change the entire way they organize or label that entire staff. It's no longer the analytics department. It's the R&D department because of how bad they were dragged through the muck. And I don't think there's anything specifically with this coaching staff that is like, oh, this is the reason why the White Sox are going to fail in 2025. The White Sox fail in 2025. It's because they have a rookie out at shortstop on opening day that's not ready and just struggled in AAA and isn't, forcing his way up come June or May or whatever.
Understood that. But I'm saying Vinny asked the question, and it was a great question. It's like a 121 lost team. Most of the coaches are coming back. Like, there should be some attrition from a team like that. There should be some people who lose their jobs because that team didn't do what they were supposed to. Yes, ultimately, Marcus Thames is not responsible for 1 through 9. But somebody, he can't just come back on that team that was sucked and then have no culpability for that team.
No, but it's on Chris Getz. Like, that's the whole thing. It's not about
He's
Marcus
not getting
Thames.
fired,
Marcus
though.
Thames, but
Chris Getz is never getting fired.
That's fair. So let's fire Marcus Thames. Let's get rid of his job, and let's get rid of a black man's job. This is what you want to do? You want to get rid of a black man's job in America?
Hey, if you struggled, sorry, bro.
Brutal. All right, Vinny, anything else with Chris Getz and the winter meetings, as we are clearly getting off track?
No, I mean, we'll obviously talk to him again tomorrow. I mean, listen, this is the winter meetings. You wait for something to happen, but nothing's happening so far, and we'll see if that's different by the time I talk to you guys tomorrow night.
Absolutely. We appreciate Vinnie Duber for having boots on the ground in Dallas. If anything breaks, if there is an emergency podcast, emergency news, breaking news, we will be here on the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. Vinnie will beam in from Dallas. Herb and I will give us your thoughts on whatever comes down. But hey, maybe nothing happens. We'll be back at 6 p.m. tomorrow. We'll have a very similar show where we'll roll back more Getz tape and talk about what happened in Dallas tomorrow. But again, if you do want to stay tuned, make sure you're hitting the notifications in case some breaking news happens. We'll have you covered here on the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. For Vinnie Duber, our CHGO White Sox beat writer down in Dallas, you can follow him at Vinnie Duber and read his work at allchgo.com. For Herb Lawrence, our CHGO White Sox community leader, I'm Sean Anderson. Thank you to Sarah for producing the show. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 6 p.m. Goodbye.
We all silly like the mayor.